And joining us live in studio is Professor Sipho Bear, political analyst. Thabo Mutle is ANC Youth League NEC member. And you at home are most welcome to give us a call 011-542-2186 or join us on social media. Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks so much for joining us. I mean, this high level of ill discipline in the alliance, I suppose the rallies were a culmination of what we've seen as open letters, marches, a call for Zuma to fall. But it can still be done within the confines of what the party or the structures demands.
Yeah, I think what we've seen here are the consequences of recklessness by leaders. When leaders begin to make statements about who they do not want, and the followers begin to take a cue from that, and those leaders cannot, after having said that, say, no, today it's a cessation of hostilities. Today, we are not going to march against this person that you had made a scapegoat to all South Africans' problems. So that is the recklessness of leadership. And the masses do not operate like a tap. 1 minute you open it, the next minute you close it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is also that there have been wishes to destroy the ANC. Within this country and outside this country. This is the best time to destroy the ANC. When your intention is to destroy the ANC, make sure that you remove or you call for regime change on the leader who still enjoys support. Remember, we had an experience with Thabo Mbeki being removed, and it caused havoc within the ANC. And if the removal of an unpopular leader causes havoc, imagine what it will do to the ANC when you remove a strong and still a president who enjoys a lot of support. So this is the best time that all forces that are anti-ANC can buy members of the ANC and can pass agent provocateurs to make sure that they disrupt. But thirdly, we must also understand that it doesn't take a lot of people to disrupt anything. Those of us who have run institutions, we know that you just have to have a small hotheads. They can be very disruptive. And we've seen them all over who will be able to disrupt. And this was long coming. And what it also does, it says the ANC's intelligence was not very good on this one, because they assumed that members of the Cosatu are so disciplined that if they are now given new marching orders. But even then, we have to also not assume that all those people who were brought in were really members of Cosatu, because we still don't know. But what is known is that there were people who were prepared to travel a long distance with the intention of disrupting. And though that's anarchy is not an expression of a freedom of expression, because in as much as you have a right to express yourself, you should also not trample on the right of others to hear what others have to say. So what you see here is people who impose their will. So it's a dictatorship of a different kind. So we need to be able to pay attention to those things.
Yeah, would you say this is a new law in the tripartite alliance, where in a public gathering which had been organized, logistics confirmed that a president was going to speak, and now we see the booing of President Zuma? Is this the beginning of the end, in your view?
Yes, good evening to you and your viewers. This is an unprecedented behavior from alliance partners. Remember, but this is exacerbated by the fact that there were letters issued to say President Zuma must not address any rally. That thing, it's foreign, it's new in the alliance, because the ANC will remain the leader of the alliance. Therefore, the ANC will deploy its cadres to commemorate with Cosatu. There's been a culture, it has been a tradition. Now, it is regrettable what happened today in Bloemfontein. This poses a threat to Cosatu itself and the SACP as the vanguard of the working class. Now, it poses a question to them to say, are they still eligible? Can they still manage the working class? Because had they been able to manage the working class, this thing was not supposed to happen. Let alone the fact that people have been passed from the neighboring the provinces to come and disrupt that event. it is very regrettable indeed.
Let's get a voice from Bheki Stofile, SACP Free State Provincial Secretary. Mr. Stofile, good evening and thanks so much for your time. Is the SACP taking responsibility for the misconduct of members generally in the alliance, primarily that it cannot be that a democratically elected president is booed, and we call this an expression of principles, or an anti-Zuma principle for that matter?
I think, thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners too. Let me confirm what it was said by the General Secretary of the party after the incident. We feel sorry of what happened, and it's a very bad. It's reflecting a very bad to all of us in the alliance. But each and every alliance component had a responsibility too. This is the May Day. It's a workers' day, supposed to be led and celebrated by workers. The Communist Party and the ANC SANCO are invitees in this workers' day. In this morning, what happened, which was terribly bad, people arrived in a workers' day with a T-shirt written Zuma 100% and is not going. And this is set in the midst of many complex political challenges that we in the alliance were facing. And this, it was at least called out of order by the leadership of Cosatu in the province, that it cannot be permitted and it's incorrect. And secondly, I think I've heard in the interview during the day and many accusations about provinces passing individuals into the province. I have no knowledge of that. What I know is that it has been members of different affiliates who have concerned about the manner in which the rally or the activity is organized.
But Mr. Stofile, you can't say that it was because of supporters, or rather Zuma supporters wearing T-shirts endorsing him, that this provoked the behavior that we saw today. As a matter of principle, this has never happened before. So clearly the leadership are also fueling the factionalist divisions within the tripartite alliance.
No, but if you allowed me to finish, maybe you'll understand. I'm saying that is part of the contributing factor. That's one factor. The second factor is this, that those that were in that rally, not being a bench analyst, political analyst, but those that were in the activity, like myself, there is a complaint from mine workers who said leadership of the ANC prevented their bus to be transported into the activity, which they went into the activity angry, singing songs demonstrating of unhappiness. Was that within the leadership responsibility to prevent members to celebrate that day?
All right, let's get a view. Please stay on the line. Mr. Kebi Mapadzwe, the MKMVA chairperson. Good evening to you, and just your reaction in these ambush tactics in trying to prevent an ANC president from speaking at an event, and obviously also the implication that this has for the alliance going forward.
Thank you, ma'am, and the viewers. Indeed, today it's a regrettable day in the history of the alliance and the history of South Africa, where a president of the African National Congress is denied a right to address the working class of South Africa, and as a leader of the alliance. I think the leadership of Cosatu should go back to the drawing board and think deep about Cosatu, because this is not only about President Jacob Zuma, but in the manner that Cosatu has got involved in the factional battles of the African National Congress. They are losing sight of the interest of the working class. And if they are going to continue doing like this, we must say goodbye to Cosatu. And it will be painful in the history of the alliance that we see Cosatu being destroyed by its own members because they're getting too much involved in the factional battles of the African National Congress. But we want to say to the leadership of Cosatu and the alliance, they must go back to the drawing board and think about the alliance. Because we are worried if the alliance will die because people do not want President Jacob Zuma. It can't be like that.
All right, stay on the line, Mr. Mapatswe. Professor Siep.
Yeah, I think what KB says goes to the heart of the matter. When you have alliance partners and having others who do not respect the organizational independence of others and wants to impose, this was bound to happen. It's not the crisis that happened there has nothing to do with analysts. It has to do with the leadership of the ANC, of Cosatu and the ANC and SSCP. So people should not put the blame on people who are trying to make sense of what is happening. But like they said, it is regrettable. What they need to do, instead of finding the scapegoats elsewhere, they need to say, how do we move from here? So that's the first point I want to make. But one should also take into context or factor into context the situation that we're in. That there are people who have, because of the campaigning that started early, despite the attempts by the ANC to almost say it's not time yet, you find that there are some people who have said we're going to make Jacob Zuma our project. But the real project is not Jacob Zuma, but it's Nkosazana. So you tarnish this one and hope that he'll end up being so tarnished that anybody who's associated with him becomes tarnished. So what needs to happen is that there needs to be a nuanced reading of what has actually happened there. But what is most important is the alliance has been forced to a corner where it has to say, is this how we're going to operate? But as I said, the best time to destroy the ANC, it is now. Because what you are going to have is where you're going to have a number of provinces that are going to be able to say no. And that way, the internecine wars within will fracture the organization beyond repair. But most importantly, it was also correct for the leadership there to actually cancel the whole affair. Because had they continued, it is also possible that you may have had the bloodshed. Because once you have mob psychology and you have emotions being inflamed, you run the risk of turning this into some unfortunate situation.
Frustrations understood, and the fact that we'll have different ideologies and you know, the right to express those. But again, the principle is, as a Cosatu or as an SACP, whom one scholar had called essentially a tenant in somebody else's premises, being the ANC, what would it benefit Cosatu and the SACP to continuously erode the ANC?
So it's a challenge, but let me say we are expecting these things to happen, particularly in a year where the ANC is going to a conference. We have seen SACP taking a decision at some stage to swell the ranks of the ANC. We are expecting the people who must swell the ranks of the ANC must be the leaks of the ANC, not alliance partners. Now, they are preoccupied with the leadership of the ANC. That is why these things are happening today. But what is said is that they are not happening in the best interest of workers. This has got nothing to do, it has got nothing to advocate the interest of workers, it has got nothing to do with ordinary workers. The disruption that took place there, they are not going to benefit workers. Neither are they going to benefit all of us as the alliance partners. Now we need to go back and to the drawing board. The leadership of the ANC, the leadership of SSCP and Cosatu must sit down and remind themselves, why are we in the alliance? Because our alliance was born out of struggle. It is not documented anywhere. Now, we can't, at this stage, become enemies of each other. We must allow the ANC to lead the alliance. And now, the succession debate must be left to the African National Congress to debate it, and the ANC must be the one who decides who to lead. Now, it is unprecedented what is happening currently, because now the alliance partners, they want to dictate to the ANC who should lead the ANC.
All right, let's get Mr. Stofile to respond. Mr. Stofile, the premature pronouncement on ANC succession and the involvement of the alliance partners in that debate, essentially fueling further divisions. What is your view?
I think it's a misunderstanding of the SACP position by your speakers there. One, I think, let me first correct your last speaker. He said the SACP resolution, it says the SACP must swell the ranks of the ANC. There's no such resolution in the SACP. The SACP, what is always saying, is saying we cannot allow the ANC that its role is to lead its alliance and the society to be captured. We cannot allow corrupt practices to be driven through the ANC processes, because that conduct is going to discredit the same ANC. Because ANC is not leading itself, but it's leading the society. And therefore, ANC should act in the best interest of society. So I think let me first clarify that part. Secondly, on this incident today that happened here in Bloemfontein, is an incident that all of us will regret it. It's an incident that we says it should have not even deteriorated to that level.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Stofile, just in the interest of time, in the liability or collective responsibility that material stakeholders like the SACP and Cosatu should take, you're saying you don't want to be led by a captured ANC and, corruption needs to be eradicated. But your members themselves who are leaders in parliament have the option of, making a decisive action and walking away from the alliance, as it were. And secondly, to also prove the alleged corruption and capture, because it's something that's ventilated enough in the public discourse. But if you want to take corrective action, I'm sure there are instruments that you could exercise.
Look, the SACP is part and parcel of the alliance. And remember, this alliance is not just an alliance that came through out of ANC. It was the Communist Party view that if we want to transform our country completely, we had to enter into alliances with liberation movements like African National Congress. And for this phase of transition, where you deal with the national question, you must have a leader in the form of African National Congress.
All right, Mr. Stofile, I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm not quite satisfied, but closing comments from you, Mr. Maphatsoe, just in terms of the future of the alliance.
I think we still need to strengthen the alliance. All of us have got interest of the alliance. This alliance, it is born out of struggle. People died in the struggle defending the alliance. And therefore, no single individual can break this alliance. We will defend the alliance. Those who want to move away from the alliance, let them do it in a very dignified manner, go away and leave the alliance as strong as it is. But for now that we know that there's an attack against the Cosatu, which we are very worried, and if people continue to divide Cosatu is going to be weak, and once Cosatu is going to be weak, the alliance is going to be weak. So we must make sure that we assist Cosatu that it must be strong and the alliance to be strong so that we defend against of this revolution.
Thank you, Mr. Maphatsoe. And just the double speak that we've seen, if you look at the Solima Bailes and, maybe Stumo Dlamini on the one side, very conflicting views as to the leadership of Jacob Zuma. If that still remains a contentious issue or a thorn on their side, how can the alliance continue forward?
Well, like Idlik said, number one, the alliance, they must respect their own independence. They must influence each other, but they must also understand that it would be unfair for the ANC to dictate on Cosatu who should be the leader and who should be a leader in SSAP. Secondly, they need to understand that reckless statements have consequences. And what we have here, irrespective of what they are trying to say, is that it is what happened today is as a result of statements that they themselves have been making, that this thing did not just happen overnight and people did not wake up. There were plans. And what the ANC needs to do is to ask whether it has alliance partners it can trust. And also it must sort its own issues, because most of the challenges are also internal within the ANC.
What does the future hold as Young Lions? I'm sure your wisdom can be appreciated in these discussions. So what do you see needs to happen?
Yes, what needs to happen is that we'll call upon our members or young people to ascend to the positions of responsibilities in both this tripartite alliance. Because the old guards are fighting, we don't know what is their interest, what are they fighting for. But whatever they are fighting for, it is not in the best interest of this country. And it is not in the best interest of the future. Now, they need to come together, resolve their differences. All young people will have to take over and lead this tripartite alliance to the future.
We're going to have to leave.